Hi, everyone. I'm Summer.
I'm Carrie.
And this is Hopelexia Podcast.
Join us to talk about sex, drugs, and self-improvement.
Like there is so much that we know about psychopathy, but there's also so much we don't know about psychopathy. And one of the things that I was reading, and I'm sure we'll put the link to the thing in the in the comments and whatnot. But there was I was on Twitter last night. Sorry, I refuse to call it X. I just refuse. Anyway, I was on Twitter last night, and there was this really, really fascinating tweet by a Harvard neuroscientist, and whose name I've forgotten. Sorry, it'll be in the comments. I'm sure it will. Anyway, he posted this really fascinating article that was about we can kind of only call it cellular memory. So what this is a bunch of, and it can only be anecdotal, but these are stories of queer things that have happened, not queer, like odd things, I guess, right? That have happened after a transplant of an organ, right? Like of the variety that was like on frickin', Angel, when Lindsay, what's his name, got his hand cut off and it turned out to be like the hand of a serial killer or whatever, right? Like, this is cellular, it really can only be cellular memory. This is like somebody from, who had a heart transplant had an experience. Well, actually, not somebody, this is a 5-year-old kid, right? 5-year-old kid had a heart transplant, and the heart came from a 3-year-old child. Now, the 5-year-old child had been told nothing about the person whose heart he ended up getting. And what he said was, this person was about half my age, and I'm summarizing, of course, and probably, a little bit more adult language, but he basically was like, the person whose heart I got, they were about half of my age, and they used to love Power Rangers the exact same way that I used to love Power Rangers. But then they had a really, really long fall and died, and now I don't like Power Rangers anymore. And so it turns out that what had actually happened was that the child whose heart he had received was 3 years old and had been a huge Power Ranger fan, as had been the 5-year-old child who was the recipient of his heart. They'd both been huge Power Rangers fans, except that the 3-year-old had reached for a Power Ranger toy and fallen from a great height and died. And as a result, after the 5-year-old boy got the 3-year-old boy's heart, he couldn't stand Power Rangers anymore.
Okay, so the odd part of this to me is not having the memories from the transplant donor, because that doesn't surprise me.
Right.
What surprises me is that the fall that caused his death had time to process into memory and be stored in at the cellular level.
To the point where the recipient no longer likes Power Rangers. Like, that just blows my mind. Like, even, I don't know how, oh my gosh, I feel like a terrible person, but now I'm like trying to do math calculations. Like, how long actually is that fall? How long was the height from? How much of the child, like, how long was that fall before, there wasn't any bodily processing anymore? How long was that? And like, that still had time to embed itself in the cellular memory, to the point where the kid is like the kid woke up from the surgery and was like, no more Power Rangers. Like, what?
I wonder if it was because it was like such a traumatic thing to the body. If that's maybe like why. I did not give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, you did.
I did not give my phone a thumbs up. I don't know why I did that, but I wonder if it was like, oh my gosh, everything's moving. So sorry, everybody. I wonder if it was because it was like such a traumatic event for the little boy's like body, if that's like why it was like immediate
for
like cellular
sure.
memory. Because like that would make sense if you think about like all the other ways people think about like genetic memory and like cellular memory. Like all of these like extremely traumatic events is like what caused that, like theoretically.
Well, and I think
And a
startle
3-year-old died.
reflex.
Like,
Startle reflex. Told you we were going to bring it back to psychopathy. Booyah!
we got
Right?
there.
But that's true. I mean, you bring up an excellent point, right? This was something where the startle response was bam, right? That was engaged, full freaking body. I mean, I guess that sort of is, what's the word I'm looking for? Like redundant. I guess the startle reflex is going to be full body, but like, not like in somebody jumped out, but like a holy crap, I'm about to, like that's, but it does. So, I mean, and wow, I wonder too, like I wonder if it could be accurately predicted, like based on the donors. Sorry, wait, yeah, no, the donee, I guess, the person who gets the donation of the body part. Like, I wonder if they would be able to. Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, the recipient. I wonder if they would be able to. And hey, if there's any like, if there are any researchers out there who just want to like figure this out for us, that'd be awesome. Because I now I want to know. But like, I wonder if it would be. If the recipients would be able to reliably ascertain if they were, given, brief like set of parameters, like could they figure out how the neurobiology of the person whose organ they got? Like, would they be able to say, oh, this is a neurotypical person, this is somebody with psychopathy, this is somebody who maybe had PTSD or had autism? Like, would they be able to tell just on that like sort of last minute startle response? I mean, assuming the person was awake for the, for that final moment, like would that be something that they would be able to, like, is that embedded in the cellular memory?
I don't know. Never thought about it. Like, I don't know.
Because that's something I've always I wonder, like, if somebody with psychopathy was an organ donor and that organ went to somebody who did not have psychopathy, what would happen? Like, would there be any disconnect? Would it be like would the recipient notice, like, wow, that's weird, my heart seems to be a little less responsive than my old one was? Or, I mean,
well, yeah, because people with psychopathy tend to have lower resting blood pressure and
lower resting heart rate.
Right.
Oh,
or that's what I meant was heart rate. So I wonder, and we always think about a lot of that stuff being controlled by just the brain, but really it's full, it's the way all the systems work together. So yeah, it is kind of interesting to wonder, could that affect something?
Well, and if only we knew somebody who actually did research on organ donors and people who, oh my gosh, we do. That's Abby. We'll ask Abby when she comes on.
We'll have to, we need to make a note to ask her. That'll be interesting.
And I wonder, like, oh my gosh, should we warn her? Or should we just be like, have fun? We're gonna throw a weird question at you, and we're gonna do it on camera. I mean, and obviously she may just be like, I don't know, I've never thought about it before. But I'm, like, these are the sorts of things, by the way, that those of us engaged in the, I don't even, like, engaged isn't the right word. We're all of us are obsessed, right? We are, all three of us feel a compulsion. All three of us are driven, right? Like, we can't not do this. We eat, sleep, and breathe this. And like, this is the stuff that goes through our minds as we're falling asleep at night. Like, if you swap out the heart of somebody with psychopathy in a neurotypical body, what effect would that have on the wiring of the entire system?
Well, and the other way around too, because that's what
Yeah,
Abby talks about in her book, which you'll have to remind everybody the name of it because I don't remember.
the fear factor.
The fear factor. There we go. Is she's talking about living organ donors and altruism. So more people who tend towards altruism are more likely to be organ donors, right?
Right.
So could that make a difference the other way, right? Can this person who
Right.
tends towards the other ends of that spectrum, does that affect their recipients as well, who might be, skewed towards the other side of it?
Well, and the interesting thing too, if you read her book, if you read The Fear Factor, it's also available on audiobook for people who need the audio.
That is how I read it.
That's how I read it too, and I actually had to buy like a regular because I'm just like, oh man, because I tend to highlight a lot and make notes, which is really, really difficult to do in in audiobook versions. But one of the things I think is a super fascinating, not question, but I think this is like more like an observation, right? So I think those of us who, if we were just to think about it and not, I think most of us would assume that people who, engage in organ donation are highly empathetic people. They, are probably like they feel a lot and they want to help people, and they sort of like your stereotypical bleeding heart. And it turns out, and not to sort of give away some of the really great information in The Fear Factor, but it turns out that's actually not true. There are organ donors in the book that Abby interviews, where the organ donors are like, nope, I don't feel any particular way. I did math. I recognized, like, there was one dude, his response was something along the lines of, I realized that, one in X number of people needs a kidney, and I have 2 of them, and I don't actually need both of them. So if I don't donate my kidney, when I know that these other people need it, I value my life at, and it was really specific, right? It wasn't just like 1,000 times more than, the other people. It was like 1,024 times more. Like, it was like the dude mathed it out, right? And it was legitimately, it was a math equation for him, right? It was, if I do not donate this thing that I already know I don't need, that means I value my life at way, way higher than everybody else who needs this thing that I have an extra of. And so it's not necessarily just like, oh, I'm a bleeding heart liberal or a bleeding heart whatever, right? And like, oh, please, like, take my extra body part because I feel bad. Like, it wasn't even that. It was just straight up math. And so it's really, really interesting to see the spectrum, right, of the humanity spectrum, right, the spectrum of humanity of people who donate organs. Like, it's not just the sort of people that we would originally think, or at least that I would have thought before reading the book.
I think I never thought about it like until you just brought it up. Because when I signed up to be an organ donor, my thought when I was doing it was like, if I'm dead, I don't need them.
Yep.
And other people do. And like, they would just go to waste if I didn't donate them when somebody could like actually use them and needs them.
Yeah.
I didn't think about like doing it as like a living, breathing person, like donating a kidney or something, which I would, like, if somebody needed it. But like, my thought was like, I'm already dead and I don't need them.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's most people when you like you put the little dot on your thing, but
because that's how it was when I signed up to be a bone marrow donor too. I was just like, somebody might need it someday. So like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
All I know is that if I die from if there's foul play involved, I fully intend to be like that episode of Supernatural, and I'm gonna haunt that kidney until I can take revenge on those people. That's all I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you got to do it.
I was wondering how long before Supernatural was going to come up. It's 44 minutes, and
I've been holding it in since the beginning of this organ donor conversation.
It's like how on the internet there's a GIF for everything that's Supernatural related, and nobody knows how. Supernatural
That's
fans
true.
can turn any conversation into
Oh my God,
supernatural
okay.
conversation.
But the question is, do you remember which episode it was? It's season 6. I know it's season 6.
I don't remember like the episode
can't keep
number
the
and
numbers
stuff,
straight
but it was
anymore.
the Aztec god one or the Mayan Aztec
No,
god.
that was a separate
No,
organ
that's the one
donation
I was thinking
episode.
of.
That was the one where the woman, she was just killing people because she,
Well, there was
she
like
had the
5 of
bloodlust
them.
of the
There was
god.
her.
Yes.
She got his heart. There was a guy. Stop giving me thumbs up. There was like the heart.
I
and
forget
then,
what
like,
the commands are.
I think like a liver and like a kidney,
Right.
something like that. But I wasn't.
Yeah, no, that
No,
was
this
the
is.
that was
I
a
don't remember.
separate one. There was one where the girl got her sister's kidney.
Oh yeah.
And so
Right.
and the
And then possessed
guys
the
were
car for a little
dying
bit.
around.
Yep.
Yes.
That was the factory episode.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Where
So
the guy
there's
had the weird creepy blow up doll in his bed that he talked to.
no, it
Yes,
wasn't. Oh yeah, was it a blow up doll? Yeah, I
It was
guess
like
it was.
a blow up doll or a silicone one. I think.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Or
Yeah, it wasn't
mannequin.
a
It was a
blow up doll. It was a
mannequin.
mannequin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like the thing on the left side of the head. They got that little like the like the head split open on the left side and started bleeding because that was where she fell and hit her head on the corner of the table because the guys thought it was fucking hilarious.
It's just a prank.
It's just a prank, right? I mean, and I wonder actually like how we could probably go back through all of these episodes and be like, these people had psychopathy and these people had psychopathy and these people had psychopathy. And,
It'd be like all of the ghosts.
I don't know if it would. No,
Not
because she's
all
not
of
her.
Not all of them, but like the one I'm thinking of the most, I think, is when it's after Bobby died and he's haunting his flask and they go to that house where the lady, what was her name? Abby, I think. Ellie? No. It was someone that Bobby had a fling with, and then Dean and Sam also
That
had a
they
fling
had
with
all
at different
had a fling
times,
with?
and they were all like,
Oh,
excuse me?
right.
But she died
Good
in
for
the
her.
house.
That's
and
all I
hit-
can say.
100%.
Right?
100%.
You're right, by the way. It
ghost
was
that was
season 6, episode 14.
I knew it.
You're good.
I don't remember.
Well, that's because that's the one I've watched over and over and over and over again. And did we talk? I mean, I know the three of us have talked about it, but have we talked about it on camera? Why I've watched season 6 so many times? Have we done that yet? Have we talked about
I
that?
don't believe so. We talked about it, but I didn't think it's been recorded for any of the episodes.
Okay, so
do you
do
want to
we?
tell us this?
I was going to say, do we want to do that
Supernaturally-
now? Okay.
Sure, here, might as
Sure.
well.
Let's talk about supernatural psychopathy.
I could talk about
Okay.
Supernatural every day.
So, I feel like, okay, so for the viewers, you have to understand that anytime I tell a story, it's going to come with an obligatory Russian aside, which I just like, it's in my DNA. I can't help it. If you ever read a Russian book, by the way, and the reason that I call it a Russian obligatory aside, oh my gosh, obligatory Russian aside, right? Is that if you like, I was reading this Gogol story, which is it's usually translated as the overcoat. That's not what it means. It means the cloak, but whatever. Anyway, like literally 2 words into the story, they're like, oh, by the way, and then they go off on this whole other thing for like 2 pages before they actually get back to the story. Like he doesn't even get it. So it's 4 words into the English version, but in Russian it's like 2 words. And they're like, oh, hold on a moment while I do this aside. So, this is going to
This is why I've
seem
never
like
written a book, because that's what mine would be.
exactly. So, it's going to seem like this has nothing to do with supernatural, but it will, I promise, just go with the story. Anyway, so when my son was about, I want to say he was about 14, I was out in the backyard in the garden and, doing some gardening as one does in the garden. And my son comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Mom, I think I'm like Dexter. I have no soul." And a lot of things all happened at once, right? What happened inside my head was, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, what do I do? Oh my God, what do I do? Oh my God, did my son just come to me and reference a freaking serial killer show and what do I do? Right? So that was what was going on in my head. Outwardly, what my son saw was, sort of my best impression of Giancarlo Esposito playing Gus Fring on Breaking Bad. Just absolutely blank face, although that little tiny, little bit of a smile just around the edge, like I am completely unflappable, imperturbable, and I know something you don't. So I am in control, right? Like that's kind of what I was, or at least what I was trying to do, right? Like I have no idea what I actually looked like, but that's what I was like. The outside of my body was like, I'm Gus Fring, I'm Gus Fring, I'm Gus Fring. And the inside of my head was going, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. And then there's another part of my brain that was like flipping through every single scene in Dexter, trying to sort of cobble everything together while I was also flipping through my entire, they say when you're about to die that your entire life flashes in front of your eyes. It was kind of like that, but with my kid. Like his entire life flashed in front of my eyes as I was trying to sort of madly cobble together some sort of response to him. And it was one of those, this is going to sound so fucking trite, but it's true. I knew what came out of my mouth next was going to affect the course of the rest of his life. And that what came out of my mouth next was going to decide probably whether people lived or died. And I don't know how I knew it, but I did. And no pressure, right? No pressure. And it turns out actually that that's the case. And I'll, sort of share all of that with you guys after, this part of the story. But as I was sort of frantically doing all of this stuff while trying to look like I was completely relaxed and I had everything under control, which, by the way, parents, and especially parents of kids with psychopathy, this is sort of this is just how we operate, right? Inwardly, we're like, what the hell? Oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm freaking out. And outwardly, I'm trying to look like I have it all under control. And that's fine, right? None of us have it all actually under control, right? We're inwardly freaking out all the time. The best thing that you can do is sort of get your, poker face, right? And I highly recommend Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. Nobody does nothing the way Giancarlo Esposito does nothing. Just mwah, 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 chef's kiss, right? And the part of the reason that I went with him, right, is because even kids with psychopathy, they want their parents to have it under control. Right? They want their parents to know what to do. And so when you've got that little bit of just that little bit of smile on the outside edge, right? It adds that little bit of serenity. Dude, nothing that you can throw at me is going to throw me because I already have it all under control, right? And so I had all of that stuff going on all at once, right? And so just to remind you, my kid said, Mom, I think I'm like Dexter. I have no soul. And so the first thing I did, and whatever it is, like whenever parents want to ask, like, what should I do? The first thing you should always do is take a breath. Always. Always. You want to breathe it in, breathe it out. Make sure you relax your body. Whatever tension you're holding on to, let it go. Don't do anything else before that, right? You want to make sure that you are relaxed because you don't want to act. I mean, for the most part, right? Like there are some maybe exceptions to that when you are immediately in danger, like if you're stepping out of the side of a knife blade or something like that. But anyway, so the kid asks me, or rather says to me, I think I'm like Dexter. I have no soul. So I take a breath and I let it out. And I said, yeah, you're like Dexter, except you have a soul. The difference is that we don't call it sociopathy or psychopathy when it is in a young person. Anybody under the age of 18, we call it conduct disorder because we don't use that terminology with adults. It's totally fine. As another obligatory Russian aside, I have celiac disease. And so one of the things that I said to him is, it's just another medical thing to manage, right? Like you have your CD, I have my CD, right? You have your conduct disorder, I have my celiac disease. It's not any difference. It's just something that you have to manage. Just a medical thing, ain't no big deal. We will work it out together. And the darndest thing happened. The kid, he let out that breath that he didn't even know he had been holding, right? Like he had been waiting for Mom to have some sort of a terrible response. And instead, I chose wisely, right? Like, whew. And it turns out, so several years later, I guess, right? I was having a conversation with him about this. And I asked him, I was like, so out of curiosity, that day in the garden when you came to me and you said, hey, Mom, I think I'm like Dexter. I have no soul. Like, what if instead of the response that I had given you, what if I'd been like, oh, no, sweetheart. You're not like Dexter. You're nothing like that. You're a good boy, right? He looked at me and said, I would have spent the rest of my life proving to you that I was a monster. And I think it's really, really important to notice, right, that the important part of that is I would have spent the rest of my life proving to you that I was a monster, which means it wouldn't have mattered if I was dead and gone, right? He would have still spent every bit of his life proving to his dead mother that he was a monster. And so then I asked him, the only other question there was left to ask, which is, well, what if I'd gone the other way and been like, dude, yeah, you're like Dexter. Oh my God. And he's like, well, then I would have spent the rest of my life proving to you that I was a monster. Right. So the way that I responded was the only appropriate way to respond to avoid the rest of his life being nothing but proving to his mother that he was a monster. And I think, one of the really, really important things to remember in all of this, right, is that even when a child has psychopathy, they still want their mama to love them. They still want their mama to see what it is that they want them to see them for who they are and still love them. They want their mother to see them clearly and not think they're a monster, or at least accept them, right? And so I know it seems like that should be the end of the story, except it's not.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And to be sure you never miss an upload, make sure you turn your notifications on. And please come join us on social media so we can continue these conversations in between episodes. You'll find us at Hypoxia Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.